The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to Behind the Law and happy weekend to you. Great show lined up for you today. But first, as always, my beautiful co-host, Michaela Nichols. Hello, Michaela. How are you?
I'm great.
You are the voice of the people at home. You're not a lawyer. I am. You ask the questions that people at home are thinking. Isn't that right?
I mean, yeah, that's my job. That's why I'm here.
Here's what we're going to talk about today. So you've been to a store. There was a mop out, a big puddle somewhere, and you had a slip and fall. Can you recover for your injuries? And sometimes these injuries are very, very significant. Michael Mills will join us to discuss just that. Also, Geoff Hoatson will be here. He does a lot of Medicare, Medicaid. What is the difference? I really don't know what the difference is. And how do you protect your parents as they get older? And how do you protect yourself as you get older from the government taking all of your money? Michaela, are you ready? This is going to be a great show. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Are you going to ask questions today?
I'm going to try if you let me.
Here's what we're going to do. Quick break. Very quick break. When we return, Behind the Law continues. Does credit card debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your credit card debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Welcome back to the show. Have you ever been to a store, you see a puddle, then you see the caution, the little yellow thing, the caution sign there? Or have you been at a store when you've seen someone actually slip and fall in a puddle? Can they recover? I mean, they saw the puddle, they didn't see the puddle. It's a great question, and it's one that the answer is not so simple. I don't know who else I would rather ask than our good buddy Michael Mills, trial attorney, personal injury attorney. Michael, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Slip and fall.
Yes.
All right. So let's just say we're at the local Kmart, because they don't exist anymore. We use them as an example. And there's a puddle on the floor. I slip and fall, break my arm. Whose fault is that?
Well, it depends.
I figured that might be the answer.
It depends on the store's constructive knowledge, whether or not they knew, and if they knew, did they do anything to prevent the incident from occurring? Did they put out any cones to draw your attention to it? How long had the water been there? Were there any tracks or cart marks through the water? All of was the person paying attention while they were walking? If they were on their phone, we're in a comparative negligence state, so that could play an impact on it. But overall, there's going to be some liability, especially if the store didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Comparative negligence. I think that's a term that maybe many people at home don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
No, it was a really big word.
I was trying to tee that one up for you to ask the question.
Can you tell me what that is, Michael? Thanks, Justin.
Sure, Michaela. Comparative negligence basically means that in this state, the jury or the court will allot a certain amount of negligence or liability to the person that actually got injured. Okay. So if they were doing something that contributed to their injury, then that is comparative. That portion of their injury is actually taken away from their overall award. So for instance, easy number's sake, the jury awarded this person $10,000, but found that they were 20% comparatively negligent. As opposed to getting the full $10,000, they'll actually get $8,000 as opposed to $10,000.
So like if I spilled water and then I slipped on it, would that be the instance?
You're completely negligent in that.
Got it.
So you get nothing.
Just making sure.
Right.
What if it was wine?
Why would
you spill your own wine?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, you should drink the wine.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be spilling it. Yeah.
So Florida, essentially, I think what you're saying is even if, let's say I'm 99% at fault, the store's 1%, at that point, can I still recover for the 1%?
You could, if you could find an attorney that would take the case.
I see. I got you.
Yeah. Preferably the store or the premises is more at fault or more liable than you are. Even if they're 50% comparatively negligent, again, on that same numbers case where it's 10,000, then you get 5,000. But you definitely want to make sure that you're not the majority negligent in a case.
Now, I think in some states it doesn't work this way. Not all states have comparative negligence. How do some other states look at it?
Well, some other states, they have contributory negligence. I can't get that out. And in those cases, in fact, I think in Washington, D.C., the Virginia area, I was speaking with a buddy of mine, and if you are even 1% at fault, you don't get anything.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. So we're lucky here.
We are lucky. I mean, that's incredible. And by all means, if you have been injured, whether it's a slip and fall, automobile accident, any injury whatsoever, you see a lot of people on TV. You see some of these firms get a little bit busy. What I like about Mike is he's going to personally oversee your case. He's going to meet with you from the beginning. He's always there to answer your call, answer your emails, which honestly can be one of the most important parts of getting you better and getting you the recovery that you deserve, is having his attention on your case. And you can do so by calling 321-282-1055 and do that right now. I'll leave the phone number on the screen. And when we talk about comparative negligence, then Michael, what about an automobile accident? Are things different in an automobile accident versus slip and fall? Is it the same? How does comparative negligence work when it comes to auto accidents?
It's relatively the same. So in an auto accident case, typically if it's a rear end type of accident, the person that rear-ended you is typically presumed to be at fault.
Sure.
In certain cases where, it's a four-way stop, in those types of cases, if there's no eyewitness, then those can be a little bit more tricky. And that's one of those cases where comparative negligence may come into play. Also, if it's a side impact collision where a vehicle was switching lanes, what happens is one person will say, well, I was switching lane first, or the other would say that I was already in the lane. And when it can't be determined, typically comparative negligence will come into play in that sense as well.
So I know the general rule of thumb is that if you rear end someone, it's your fault. But then I've also heard these rumors that there's a group of people out there who will literally be driving down and purposefully just slam their brakes so they can get rear-ended, so they can sue someone. How often do you see something like that happen?
We don't see it a whole lot. Typically, those folks that are trying to get in an accident and trying to pursue a claim in that way, you can typically weed them out pretty easily, especially if they've had multiple accidents with the same type of situation. And if the person that rear-ended them will usually say, we were just driving, he didn't have a reason to stop, or she didn't have a reason to stop, and just slammed on the brakes. So that's usually the first thing that make your spidey senses go off. The officers on scene will also note that in the police report, so that also will prompt the adjuster to do some more investigation into why this accident occurred and how often has this person been in these types of accidents. Got it.
Let's get back to the Kmart, or the K-Mark, as my father called it. That's where he would do his layaway, or that's where I would do my trading, is what he would say.
Hey, there we go.
Back to the Kmart. Let's say that we are shopping and we have a shopping cart, okay? And this person's coming down the aisle, and I don't have a cart, they have a cart, and they come flying around the corner and they injure me with their shopping cart. Is there any liability there on anyone?
When it's a customer on customer type of situation, that's a little bit more difficult to have a case, because should they have been paying attention? Probably so. Do they have the means by which to compensate you for any injury that you may have caused? I don't know.
Probably not a great case.
Not the best case.
I got you.
A better example would be if that same person knocked over, say, some detergent or some liquids onto the floor, and no one from the store came to clean it up. You're coming along, minding your own business, and you slip and fall in the mess that they caused.
Yep.
Who's at fault? In that situation, it depend on how long the mess had been on the floor, but that's a stronger case to bring against the premises.
And the last thing in the world I want to do here is try to go back to the one-way aisles. Please, that's not what I'm trying to say here. So
let's not
even
do that. Let's not do that.
And I know there's not a certain time frame of how long the store can leave the detergent on the ground. There's not a specific time, but I imagine it's a reasonable amount of time.
Yes.
But what is that? How do we determine? Who determines what's reasonable?
Well, it's based on that specific situation. If the person, say, gave the store notice and they didn't immediately go and clean it up or put some cones, or it's been there long enough for other folks to track their carts through or footprints through, and that evidence is there that there's footprints, there's cart tracks, and no one did anything about it. That's usually a good indication that it was there for a reasonable amount of time, and the store should have done something to clean it up, or at least protect their folks from falling in.
It makes me nervous sometimes where maybe someone's watching at home now who this has happened to, and they've called a couple of law firms they see on TV and immediately say, you don't have a case. You don't have a case. Let's say I'm watching at home right now and someone has been told they do not have a case, or we don't think you have a case. That person should still call you, don't you think? Oh,
absolutely. Look, I want the best for my clients, and if it's something that I don't feel is an actual case, I'll let them know and I'll give them the reasons. There's plenty of times that I'll get those types of calls, and I'll go through, why I feel that this isn't a case that I can pursue or I can help them with. And after I'm done explaining, they'll say, well, you know what, I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time, because you're like the third or fourth firm that I've called, and no one has told me why I don't have a case. So I thank you for giving me that time and explaining giving me that information. So
I see it all the time. Michael Mills, excellent job as always, buddy. We're going to see you across the hall here in a few minutes. You're going to stick around, right?
Absolutely.
And by all means, look, if you already have a case going, an injury case, and you're not happy with how it's going, it doesn't cost you anything to give Mike a call right now, or especially if you have called a lawyer and they said, you don't have a case, give it another shot. It costs you nothing. And if he does take your case, it costs you not a penny unless he gets you money at the end. 321-282-1055. When we get back, we live in Florida. A lot of people are getting a little bit older here. It feels like we've always been a little bit older here, I guess, but it's very important when you start talking about your parents and having to go to a nursing home. There's a big difference in between them spending all of their savings, which ultimately might have been your inheritance, versus them not spending their savings for the retirement home. We'll tell you about that and plenty more as Behind the Law continues. Does student loan debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark & Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your monthly payments. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. When it comes to roofing, there's one place I would call, obviously, Universal Roof and Contracting. I have Justin here. Corey is here. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Great to have you back. 30 years in business, obviously trustworthy, family-owned, but also veteran-owned. Tell me what you have going on for the veterans.
So we do this every year around this time. We actually give a roof away to a veteran in need. So the way to get into that is you go to our website at universalroof.com. There's going to be a banner at the top of the webpage, and you just click on that. You get to nominate your veteran. You get to tell their story, explain what they need, and during this time, we're actually going to pick a winner on our radio show on Veterans Day, and we're going to announce that winner live on the air.
Love it. When it comes to a roof, it's an expensive thing. It really is, and sometimes the insurance covers it. Sometimes you have to stroke a check. The difference often is the inspection process at the beginning. Tell me about your inspection process.
Yeah, it's absolutely free for us to come out and do a free inspection. We're going to get on property. We're going to actually get on the roof. We're going to get in the attic. We're going to walk the perimeter and develop a scope of work that works for the homeowner, that solves solves their problem and ultimately gives them the roof that they want and need.
And that's the most important part. And you're sitting at the kitchen table with them. You're not taking aerial photos. You're actually going there to see what do we really need? What roof do we need? And sometimes it's repair, sometimes it's replace, and you never overpromise. I know when it comes to my family, to my roof, Universal Roof and Contracting is the place that I would go. And you two are also super cool, by the way, as you know. Do yourself a favor. If you need a roof, it's Universal Roof and Contracting. Call them today. Do IRS threats have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your IRS debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Welcome back to the show. So what are the differences between Medicare, Medicaid, but most importantly, let's say that you have parents right now who are getting older, who are going to have to go to a nursing home. How do you protect their life savings? And it's a great question, and certainly in this state, a question that a lot of people have, Michaela. And literally, I think this is
Justin.
I think this is the best guy in town to talk about this. This is what he does for a living. Geoff Hoatson is here.
Hoatson, yeah.
I'm so mad at myself,
okay.
Geoff.
It's good.
I want to punch me, hit me.
You're hardly the first person.
It rhymes with boat. Hoatson.
There you go.
Geoff.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks, man.
We've been friends for a long time. I have a lot of respect for what you did. You've created a great firm over there, very reliable firm. All the clients we've ever sent have been very happy with you, and we're kind of about the same age, so I have a lot of respect for people who start their own law firm young. It's not as easy as you think.
That's the truth.
Medicare versus Medicaid, what the hell is the difference?
Sure. So Medicare is something that everybody gets. You know, Bill Gates, he's over 65 years old now. He's entitled to get Medicare.
Really?
Everybody gets it when they're 65. Yep, it's just the entitlement. You pay into it every paycheck, and you're entitled to. It's a health insurance that you get. Now the problem with Medicare is it doesn't pay for any sort of long-term care expenses. Okay. A lot of people have misconceptions about that. They think, oh, if I go into a nursing home, Medicare covers it. That's simply not the case. There are no benefits out there that pay for long-term care expenses like nursing home care, with the exception of Medicaid.
Okay.
Now Medicaid is something that you have to qualify for. You don't just automatically get eligible for it. You actually have to meet certain financial tests in order to get it.
Medicaid. So, all right, let's say that I have parents who are getting a little bit older right now, and we are worried about getting them to a retirement home at some point. These retirement homes, not cheap. They just aren't cheap. And I know that they have a little bit of money saved, and I would like to maybe get an inheritance at some point in time too. And I don't want my mom or my dad having to spend every penny they worked so hard for their entire lives on their retirement home or nursing home, whatever you want to call it. Are there some things that I can do right now to prepare for that time?
There are. One of the things that people don't realize is that, when you're looking at long-term care facilities like skilled nursing facilities, they can be $12,000, $13,000, $15,000 a month. Unless you're fabulously wealthy, you can run through a lot of savings very quickly. Mm-hmm. So we have really two distinct areas that we can do. We have a pre-planning section where, if you're getting somewhere between 65 to maybe 80 years old, we can plan in advance. And that, like everything else in life, planning beats reacting, right? So, the options you have when you are planning ahead make a lot more sense than the reactionary options you have. However, most people don't plan, right? That's just a fact of life. So if you have a situation where your parent is already in a nursing home, they're in the hospital and about to go to the nursing home, it's actually not too late. We can still protect the vast majority of what they have. Now, sometimes there may be taxable implications or you give up a little bit of control. Again, it's not as great, but it's still better than going broke in the nursing home.
And at $13,000 a month, we're all going to go broke quickly if that's the case. I mean, that's a lot of money. I imagine that's post-tax too, probably not tax deductible. I mean, the money's going to go very fast. And you don't have to give away your secret sauce necessarily here. Sure. But what are some of the things that go into this planning? Well, what can you do to help structure it to where all this retirement's not going to go away?
So if you're planning in advance, I've created something called our Family Fortress. And the Family Fortress is a real particular type of trust. One thing I think is a common misconception is people think that a trust is a trust is a trust. But just as, if you wanted to, move your friend out of their apartment, you would use a different automobile than you would if you were drag racing.
That's right.
There's different sorts of vehicles, and that's the way trusts are. So the Family Fortress Trust that we've created is something where you're able to put everything in that and have it protect. Now the the kicker here is you have to have somebody else, probably a child, a friend, some relative other than a spouse, who's the person who manages it for you. But by having that person manage it, you still have access to what's in there, but it's not counted against you should you ever go into a nursing home. The beautiful thing about that family fortress as well is it doesn't just protect against nursing homes. It protects against if you get in a car accident and hurt somebody, if you are subject to elder exploitation, if you end up in a situation where you're in the hospital and you're receiving incredible medical bills. It protects against all of that. It truly protects your life savings in a fortress for your family.
What about real estate, a house, so to speak? It seems like there are a lot of people out there who are getting older who really don't have a lot of cash sitting in the bank, but they've been good throughout their whole lives. They paid their mortgage and they have their house free and clear, not a whole lot of money in the bank. What does that look like for retirement planning?
So when we're looking at this type of planning, it can still make a lot of sense to set up that fortress. The reason being is because when you move into a nursing home, your house actually is not counted against you, your homestead. There are some limitations on how expensive it, how much value there is, but it's not counted against you. However, when most people move into a nursing home, they sell the home. The proceeds of those sales are counted against you, and so then you have to spend it all down in a nursing home. If you were to move your home into the fortress while you're still outside that nursing home and then move in, your child, whoever's the person in control of that fortress, has the ability to sell it, maintain those assets, use it for anything else that you may want, or continue to preserve that legacy for your family.
At what age should I come in and see you, whether it's about my parents, what age should my parents be, or even some people who are thinking about retirement now, what age should they come into your office?
We really focus on people who are mid-50s and up. So, our focus is on what happens as you age, because the fact is seniors have far more ways to be financially devastated than the rest of us. The biggest risk to your wealth is your health as you age. And so there are lots of ways that people end up losing their life savings. And so we try to protect that as early as we can.
Do you normally see the son or daughter, or do you normally see the person going into the retirement home themselves?
So if we're doing the pre-planning, we're seeing the person who's, hasn't gone in yet. They're trying to make good life choices. Once somebody's in a nursing home, that's when their children come to us and say, you got to stop the bleeding. I just wrote 2 more $10,000 checks for the past 2 months, and she's going to be broke. I'm writing my inheritance away. So in those cases, we work quickly to stop that, because the beautiful thing about Medicaid is once we're able to protect those assets, they're in a situation where Medicaid picks up the rest of the bill. And so now they're, that $10,000 a month, that stops.
It sure does. And think about it. I mean, this is your inheritance that is getting written away every single month. We want our parents to live as long as they can. We love our parents, of course. However, when you start writing checks for $10,000 and $12,000 a month, all of that money is going to be gone, and it's going to be gone very, very quickly. There are great things you can do, tools that you can use, and Geoff will talk to you right now off the air, 321-282-1055. Now, when it does come time, unfortunately, for a parent to go away, go off to heaven, they die. Kids fight over this stuff now, and I think some of these parents will be rolling around in their graves right now if they knew how their kids operated when it came time to fighting about money. We can plan ahead as parents for this as well.
That's right. I always say that, first comes grief and then comes greed.
Very well
and
said.
So people tend to grieve in different ways, and some people grieve by fighting about money, fighting about, mom didn't want this or that. And, in those situations, I truly believe that the only people that win are the lawyers.
Right.
So maybe I shouldn't be here dissuading people from kidding. But ultimately, we try to do what's right for our clients. And if you get the plan done correctly on the front end, it makes it extremely unlikely that those fights happen on the back end.
Right. And so what can I do? Is this trust going to help that? Is it a will? What tool really helps that?
Any of those tools can help. They all carry different pros and cons.
Right.
When we put together our Family Fortress Trust, it's a type of trust that makes it very, very difficult to challenge once you have it set up. That said, what I always say is if you work with someone who specializes in this stuff, they're going to be thinking about how do we prevent the fights from happening by doing the planning correctly on the front end.
Exactly, and I highly recommend doing that. Geoff Hoatson, first time on the show, buddy. We got to do this again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Hoatson.
You nailed it. You got it.
It took me 15 tries,
right.
but I finally got it. Funny thing is, as we walked in today, I knew how to say your name. Then I asked you just to confirm, and it messed with my head.
I totally understand.
My bad. Excellent work today. We're going to do this again soon. How was that?
Wonderful.
I'm serious. I see it all the time. People call my firm and they hate their brother, they hate their sister. We loved each other until mom died or until dad died. You got to make sure this stuff is dealt with ahead of time. 321-282-1055. Quick break. When we return, it's what did we learn? Does student loan debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark & Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your monthly payments. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Many of you have noticed two things. Number one, your electricity bill is out of control. Or number two, your house, your most prized possession, your biggest investment, the windows are not good. The great news for you is we have an option. My good friends at Renewal by Anderson, really the only place to turn to. Dan Brigman's here. Dan, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, hey, thank you, Justin. It's glad to be here.
The electricity bill in Florida, especially in the summer, is outrageous. And a lot of people don't understand that this has a lot to do with their windows or the lack of quality with the windows they currently have.
Absolutely. We listen to our air conditioners run all day long. And if you think about it, you're looking at a little square piece of glass in your house and you're walking up to it, you feel a little bit of heat, and you don't think much about it. But when you do the math, if you take every window in your house, it's more than 1.5 wall space of your whole house.
It's really unbelievable. And what I've noticed about getting windows through Renewal is that if you really do the math, because you're gonna save money on your electricity bill, maybe 20% even, if not more, and you start talking about the programs that you offer in regards to no down payment, very low interest rates, sometimes it's cheaper to actually buy windows than not.
Yeah, you're giving yourself money back when you're buying windows, if you think about it. With the promos we have going on now, buy two, get the third one 60% off, our 12-month no-no, our 24-month no-no. When you put all those in and you get the energy efficient savings that you're going to get from the highest rated Energy Star window in the industry, it just makes mathematical sense.
And you are kind of come in there and help me with the design. You're going to tell me what I need because I don't know.
Absolutely. We're going to show up. Our design consultants are trained specialists. We're not salespeople. We're not going to rub your eyebrows off. We're going to come out. We're going to inspect, and find out what you need and find out what fits your budget.
Always a pleasure, Dan. Do yourself a favor. Call Renewal by Anderson today. They will not disappoint. The official partner of the Jaguars, Tampa Bay Lightning, Orlando Solar Bears. I trust them. So should you. Do IRS threats have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark & Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your IRS debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. And as always, we wrap it up with, what did we learn? Michaela Nichols, what did you learn?
I learned a lot. I always seem to learn a lot. Slip and fall is no joke. I learned that, there's a lot of the signage is important, and you can't just fall or throw yourself.
I think importantly, the state of Florida is comparative negligence state, meaning that even if you are significantly responsible for your injuries, you can still recover. You can kind of offset whatever responsibility the other person had. And that's a big distinction. A lot of states are not like that. What else?
Family Fortress.
That was a great name.
That stuck in my head. I think that's really important. Protect your family like a fortress.
I think it's so important. And when you're getting a little bit older, you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting your children, your grandchildren, and their inheritance. And there are things you can do to where they don't have to write that check every single month for a ton of money. It's very expensive, and also while you go through that process, you can protect them from fighting about your money as you get older. Michaela Nichols, excellent job as always.
Thanks.
I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thanks to our crew here. We'll see you again next week for more Behind the Law.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.